Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in on this video. If you are seriously considering taking the CSWA exam, I'm assuming that you're at a point where you can probably get to where I'm at on the screen. As you guys can see, I have about 95% of the sketch already completed, which is really some simple lines, vertical, some at a 45-degree angle, and then some circles. And the only thing that's missing are the arcs that connect, for example, this section here and then this segment on the bottom. Now, if we go to the sample test, you'll see that we have an R19 radius right here that's tangent to this line, and then we have an R29 and an R5, which are tangent to each other, and then the R5 is also tangent to this horizontal line right here. The other thing is this R29, the center of this arc is positioned right on that line for this line right here at the end of the sketch. All right, so let's get started, and I'm going to show you guys how I would accomplish this particular segment, and which I think is sometimes the toughest part of this whole sketch altogether, because I'm assuming that you guys can do the rest up to this point. So let's go ahead and get started by clicking on 3-point arc. Select this endpoint, that endpoint, and then click somewhere around there. We're going to add a relation, okay, with this arc and then this line, and then make them tangent, okay. And then we'll just add a dimension to that radius of an R19, 19 millimeters. All right, and then the next thing is doing something similar to the bottom side. So on this one, there's 2 arcs. So once again, I guess I'll use the 3-point arc once more time. I'll start with the one on top, and I'm just arbitrarily placing the arc out here in the meantime. And then I'm going to start on the second arc. Okay, and you guys can obviously see that this is not 100% correct. It's getting there, but there's still some more work that needs to be done, and that's adding a relation between this horizontal line and this arc, selecting tangent. Okay, and let's go ahead and click on that arc, and then this arc again, and select tangent. Okay, and let's hit the check mark. And let's go ahead and do the dimensioning. This one here is an 5 millimeter arc. This one here is 29. Okay, it's still not quite there. What's missing is, you guys remember from the PDF, the center of this arc needs to be right on this line and needs to be 19 millimeters of elevation away from this line on the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, if I grab this point and I drag it around a little bit, I'll find the center point, and that's the center point of that arc. I'm gonna try to scoot this over a little bit closer before I actually add the relation. I'm gonna drag this point over to the left, and I guess from there should be fine. Add a relation between this point and this line. Select coincident. It lines up with the line. And then add a dimension. Oops, I didn't activate it. There we go. And then type in 19. Okay, and then that's what the symbols on the PDF mean, right? Coincident on this line, tangency between these 2 arcs, and then tangency between this line and that arc. Okay, so that should complete my sketch. I do have a fully defined status at this point, which means that I have defined every single dimension on here. So now at this point, I'm going to go into the extrude command and then give it a thickness of 43 millimeters, which is already there. I'll just go ahead and type it in again and hit the check mark. Okay, and the material that you want to define is AISI 1020. The PDF does mention that, as you guys can see right here, AISI 1020, but it says 1020 steel. And just to confirm, to avoid any kind of confusion, if you do go to the edit materials and add the material, there's two 1020s. It's actually the first one, AISI 1020, because when you apply it, you close it, and then you do the evaluate of the mass properties, you'll find a weight of 939.54 grams, which matches one of the answers on the test. We scroll down a little bit, 939.54 grams. So you want to make sure that the weight that you get is accurate, obviously, but you want to make sure, because on the first one, the way the CSWA works is they will give you a multiple choice, but only on the first question. And then you'll have a follow-up question where you're going to modify something on the model that you just did. And then the subsequent question won't have multiple choice. You have to type it in. So you have to confirm that at least you are in the right path before you move on to the next question. All right, so for question 4, which is on page 20, is asking us to basically use the part created on the previous question and modify it by changing the following parameters. So now we're changing some values here. A and B and C, the values are changing. Okay, so to modify the part, you have a couple of options. You can actually click on, for example, the extrude feature listed on your feature tree, or you can click on the sketch. And you actually have to work with both at one point or another to modify the changes that you need. So for sketch 2, you can either go into the sketch or just highlight it by clicking on it. And if you go to the normal to command, you should be able to see the dimensions a little bit clearer. So for example, this 81, if I click it, this one now changes to 84, hit enter, 57. Now it changes to 59. As you guys can see, the dimensions are changing, and so is the shape of the model. So now what's left to do is you have to modify the feature. So if you click on the tree, on the icon there, you'll see that 43 was the total thickness for the previous question, and now they want it to be 45. So click it, double click it, and then 45. And then you can hit the rebuild button just in case. And now you have to do the same thing as before and obtain the mass properties. So if you click here, the mass property obviously has increased because the part got a little bit bigger. And now the total weight is 1,032 grams, 0.32. So this value here, you would have to enter it into a little box that the CSWA is going to provide for you. Okay, so as you see here on the PDF version, it says what is the overall mass of the part. You would have to type it in. So at the very end of the PDF, you'll have the answers. So let's go to the answers real quick just to double check. Answer key. This is question number 4, and there goes your weight, 1,032.32 grams. So we know we did it correctly. All right, so let's move on to the next section, which is modifications that's going to be done to the same model. Now, if you guys read the article that I typed, this is what I'm talking about. You guys have to be able to look at what they're asking you to do and interpret it correctly so that you can then modify your 3D model. If you are at a point where you are looking at this and are confused and not really sure how to read it, practice a little bit more before you decide to jump on the CSWA, because there will be several models to complete. And the last thing you want to do is waste too much time just trying to interpret the drawings. So for those that are ready and can look at this one and visualize, okay, I know exactly what it is that I need to do or what this part looks like, let's proceed with the next steps. Okay, so let's do this. The first easy one, in my opinion, is this section right here. You have a 19mm cut that goes from this end all the way to a certain point over here. According to this, it's 52mm from this flat to that edge. Okay, so then that basically gives me the rectangle that I need up here. But first, let's confirm that the A, B, and the C value didn't change. So one of the things that I really recommend is make sure you read everything on the question and don't just make assumptions. So as you guys can see here, the values have changed. And now A is 86, B is 58, C is 44. Okay, so now let's go back to SolidWorks and make the changes. So you can actually go into the sketch, left click on the word sketch, and then edit sketch. Okay, and then if you go to the normal to command, you can actually see the values here. And then this one here is changing to 86. This one here is changing to 58. Okay, and at this point I am going to just exit out of the sketch, and then I am changing the thickness here to 44. Okay, now you don't necessarily have to go into the features. As you guys saw earlier on the video, you can also just click on them and change them, but I just like to show you guys the two different methods. Okay, and what we're doing now is we're going to add that 19mm segment on the top. So I'm gonna go to the top view. I'm actually going to click on this surface here, and then I'm gonna make a sketch, a new sketch. And what I'm doing is I'm actually just creating a corner rectangle, placing it right here, and then somewhere around right there. Now I'm gonna go into a dimension command and type in the values. That one's 19, and the other one shows it to be at 50. Where is it? There it is, 52mm from here, which is this edge right there, to the back wall. So now I'm just going to add a dimension of 52mm from there to here. See, and that pretty much completes a fully defined sketch, because the rectangle has the two parameters in terms of dimensions that it needs, and I had locked the corner right on that edge right there. So let's go to Extrude Cut. Let me rotate the part around a little bit so you guys see what's going on. Instead of blind, I'll just select through all, and then hit the check mark. And there goes the notch that's required for the part. Okay, that's only the first step. Now let's go back to the PDF, and we're going to do the same thing here on the bottom. We have basically another notch that is a 19mm box right here. It doesn't really give us a start or an end point, but you can look at the image and visualize it that it just goes all the way across. Okay, so let's do that there. All right, so then the next thing is to add that notch on the bottom, which is basically another rectangular cutout. So I'm gonna click on sketch here. I'm drawing on this plane right there. Okay, and I'm going to start. Now if you notice on the PDF, it says 19 from the bottom up. So let's go ahead and do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangular box. Okay, I like to add a relation and make this line in a line with that edge. I'll make them collinear so they line up, and then select dimension command and then type that at 19. Now I like to recommend everyone to do a fully defined sketch. As you see right now, I'm underdefined. You can see some blue lines on my sketch. So I'm just going to add a few more relations. I'll click that one there, and then this point there, make them coincident. And lock this line and then this edge, and make them collinear to where that sketch follows that edge everywhere it goes. Okay, and then you'll see that it basically creates a sketch that looks something like this. And according to the PDF, it shows it to have a depth of 19 millimeters as well. So then features, extrude cut 19, and hit the check mark. All right, and let's see what else is left to do. All right, so we have this step that goes right in the middle. Oh, and then we have another hole that goes right through here. So let's go at this particular hole. That should be a pretty straightforward one. Click on this face, make a new sketch. Let's go to normal 2 so you guys get a better perspective of it. Draw yourself a circle, and then you dimension it, which I believe was 14 millimeters from each direction, and then the diameter of 11. Click on the circle itself, click on the edge, type in 14. Once again, circle, top edge, 14. Click the circle, 11. A little hard to see because of the shading. I'm gonna rotate around a little bit. Features, extruded cut, and then select through all. Okay, and then you have that feature added. And now what we're missing is this feature right here. Is basically like a cutout curve right here, which has a 41 radius. Okay, the center of this radius is in alignment with this edge. Okay, and then from the top line to that edge right there, right where that circle or that arc breaks or hits this intersection, we're at 36. I'll show you guys how to do that one a little quicker, I think, than what some of you guys might be visualizing. So let's go ahead and do it this way. One thing to note is that this cutout is not at the very edge, right? It's 10 millimeters off, and then you have a total cut of 24 millimeters. However, I am going to sketch it on this face. So I'm actually going to click on this face, select sketch to make a new sketch. I am going to look at the image a little bit backwards than what you guys might be thinking. And I'm going to draw a circle, something like that. Okay, if you guys remember, let's see, the radius of that circle was a 41. So 41 should be 82. If you want to change this value from a diameter to a radius like it calls on a drawing, just click on the dimension, click on the arrow and liters, and then change it from a diameter to a radius. Okay, and then we'll do an add relation. Click here, which is the edge, click the point, make it coincident. Okay, and then the last thing that we need to do is this 36. Now, how do we do the 36? The way that I like to do the 36 is to click on this point, snap that point right at the intersection of that circle and that edge. That gives you something to dimension to. So now you can click on that edge, click on that point, type in 36, and there you go. You have a fully defined sketch. You've defined that point right there at a 36, and you have a R41. Right now, if you guys notice, the sketch is way on the outside, and the PDF shows it to be at 12 away from that edge before the extrude cut commences. So this is how you do it. Even though you're out here, you can still go to features, extruded cut. However, instead of starting from the sketch plane, you offset it 12 millimeters. Okay, make sure the offset is going in the right direction, which shows to be in the wrong direction. So there goes the offset. Just click that button there to flip it. And then blind, which is correct. And then type in the total extrude cut length of 24. And then hit the check mark. And that generates that feature. Now if you go back to the PDF, let's see, I believe that's all the modifications we need to do. Okay, so let's go to the mask properties, and we'll see here await of now 628.18 grams. We'll go back to the PDF, to the answer key, and you guys can see for number 5, you got 628.18 grams. So we did that correctly. And then let's go back and follow up with the next question, which is question 6. And once again, we're doing some additional modifications to the part. All right. A, B, and C are not changing. They're staying the same. All we're doing is we're adding these additional features. So this one here, to me, is probably one of the easiest things to do. But if you're not familiar with the following command buttons, it makes this a little bit harder. So let's go ahead and start by clicking on this face, making a sketch. While that face is highlighted, we are going to click on the offset entities command. Now, if we look at the PDF is telling us that it is a 1 millimeter typical thickness all the way around. So we can take care of that with the offset command that we just activated. So as you guys can see, the offset is going towards the outside, so we want to reverse that towards the inside. And we don't need it to be 10 millimeters thick, we need it to be 1, so type in 1. And there you go. That's pretty much your whole sketch. You now hit the check mark to create the offsets. It's a little hard to see because of the shading. Let me see if I can spin it around. There you go. And then we'll hit the features, Extruded Cut. It wants to basically cut everything inside of that shaded area. And the difference here is that according to the PDF, the back wall should also be a 1 millimeter thickness back here. So we're taking the extrude only to this depth first. This part here we'll do a minute later. But this one here is the first step that we're doing. So assuming, which is the right assumption, that the back wall here is 1 millimeter thick, instead of blind, I'm switching this one to offset from surface. I'm turning it around and I'm selecting this surface as my point, or the surface that I want to offset from. Okay, and then I'll put here that I want it to be 1 millimeter away from that face instead of 24. You guys can see the preview there, where it's basically going in until it's 1 millimeter away from this face that I selected earlier. All right, so hit the check mark. And there you go. That's the first part. Now we have to add the final one, which is the one on the inside. Okay, so this part here is also 1 millimeter. Okay, and we need it to go to a depth of 12 millimeters away from this face. So on this one, I like to do something different. I like to activate the hidden lines visible, just so that I can see this particular edge right there. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this interface that I just created, right? This face on the inside, and I'm going to make a sketch on it. Okay, so now I'm sketching on that face. I am going to offset that one, just that hidden line, 1 millimeter in that direction. Okay, I'm going to click on the inside face again. And then when I click on this face, let me activate the shade back in so you guys see what I'm clicking on. I'll click the Convert Entities command, and that'll basically trace every edge on the face that I had highlighted previously. Kind of hard to tell with the shading, but as you guys can see, the lines are there. Okay, and now, even though it's not a completed sketch, as you guys can see, it is a completed sketch, but we have some overlap, right? What's going to happen is when I click on features and extrude, I'm going to get this box open up by itself, which is selected contours, because technically I do have one big contour that gets cut in half because of this arc that slices it in the middle. So you can pick and choose. You can say I want to work with this section, or I want to work with this section, or I don't want to work with this one and just that one. So we're just going to work with this one. Okay, this is the one area that we want to work on and ignore the rest of the sketch. That's what that box is for. And then we'll select offset from surface. Select this as our surface to offset from. And then the value is 12 millimeters that we'll type in here. Okay, and then hit the check mark. And now you have, let me deactivate this real view graphics. And then you'll see how you can see the depth into the part now. Okay. Now according to this, let's see, that's all we needed to do. And then determine the overall mass of the part. Once again, evaluate mass properties. This one is 432 grams. 432.58. And let's go double check. Let's go to the answer key. There you go, 432.58. Okay guys, so this is pretty much the end of the tutorial. This is mainly focusing on the modeling of the part. I will create a second one to show you guys the assemblies if that helps you guys out. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to send us questions to my website, and I can try to help you guys by giving you guys some additional pointers. But please do a lot of practice and be ready for the test. It's not an extremely hard test, but it is a little tougher than just the sample test. So just because you pass the sample test, don't think that you'll be ready to go and just knock everything out. Just practice as much as you can before you get to it. There's no rush to it. Last thing you want to do is start panicking during the test and find out there's something that you may have missed or not practiced enough on. So practice, take your time, practice, and then go ahead and take the test. So if you guys have any questions, let us know, and appreciate you guys watching the video. Thank you.